Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4059. Today's date is May 17, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:26 p.m. It's summer. It's hot. Yeah. During the night, it is also become really hot. Like a May month has always been like a really hot. Yeah. And because of this kind of like a really hot weather, recording during the night is like not possible. Like, why is not that possible? Because during the day I already charge up. Okay, yeah. It's not because of just a kind of like a weather, it's because of lot of things. Okay, yeah. I realize that in the summer I am feel very tired. I don't know why, but it is like I don't know, something kind of like a feel like that weather is kind of like a draining my energy automatically. I don't know why, but I probably feel like that. Okay. Another thing is that ki in the summer during the night I'm getting really very good sleep. There are multiple factors, by the way. Like basically, I kind of like manage my body clock very properly. I eat my lunch, dinner very much properly, so that's why my sleep cycle is very much like a very good. Okay, like 7 hour of sleep is a kind of like I'm getting it, and after I wake up very automatically. I don't really require any kind of like alarm and things and that. But still, I realize that during the summer, okay, yeah, like basically this thing what exactly happened, probably it would be kind of like my activity, my routine might be a kind of like a responsible. Okay, let me tell you one thing. During the morning, recording artifact is bit more convenient, bit more kind of like a good. Why? During the morning it's not really that much warmer. I usually record at morning at 7:30 or 8 a.m. Probably it's kind of like it's not really that much warm. Like still 35 37 degrees Celsius is still warm, but it's okay. Another thing is that in the morning I already charge up. I just woke up. I just had a kind of like a somebody, like I just woke up and I kind of like a drink my tea and kind of like a things and that. So I'm kind of like already charged up. Okay. So it's kind of like a very easy and very kind of like a very productive to record artifact in the morning. But summer during the night, it's not really possible because in the evening at 6:30 p.m. I went to work out. I work out and came home at almost like maybe like almost like 8:30. Okay, yeah. I came home, I kind of like shower and things and that. And then after that I did my lunch. Okay, sorry, dinner. After I ate my dinner, I just don't want to go anywhere at all. I just kind of like sit in front of the cooler and things and that because it's so warm. Okay. I just want to sit there. I don't know why, but I just like I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to kind of like sit there and kind of like just take that cold wind and things. It just feels like very good for me. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing. Now, in my room, I don't really have any kind of like AC or cooler, nothing really at all. I have just a kind of like that table fan. That table fan is a kind of like so dinky that it kind of like blows hot air. Yeah, literally just hot air. And during the day, while I was kind of like doing my coding and things and that, I'm kind of like sweating. But still, it's kind of like whatever I have, that is only thing that I could afford. Fine. Okay. During the night when I get the cooler, oh my god, I just melt there. I just don't want to go anywhere at all. I just want to just kind of like sit there and just kind of like just take the cold things that feel really good. Okay. And first of all, another thing is that like I don't want to record artifact. It's not because of that I don't want to, it's because of that I don't want to leave my living room. I just want to stay there because the only living room is a kind of like a bit more colder because the only one cooler that we have, which is actually installed in living room. Okay. So okay, one thing. Another thing is that I already tired up. Okay. And I don't want to, basically during the night, after I eat my dinner, I don't really have anything to do anything at all. just no. I just ate my dinner. I would probably record Artifact. I would gonna do some sort of things, but not really that much. I just went to sleep. Okay. And another thing is that na ki soon as I leave the living room, okay, I ate my dinner. I just kind of like a stayed there for half an hour and kind of like a leave from the living room, came to the rooftop, and soon as I came to the rooftop, oh my god, that brutal hotness I'm kind of like a facing. It's just like that na ki during the day it is like a, obviously it would be more brutal heat, which is true by the way. But during the night na the heat actually came from the surface because of the urbanization and the kind of like asphalt and things and then tarmac and stuff like that. The surface get warmer, and during that thing during the night, that surface kind of like emit that heat. Okay, and because of I am or any other kind of like a person are so close to the surface, it's kind of like a bit more warmer, okay, than during the day. Because during the day you have kind of like a some like during the day is kind of like even more warmer. It's not really that, but still during the night it's just like why. And May month is like a very much brutal. By the way, thank God monsoon is actually coming on this end of this May. Probably it will gonna arrive at maybe 6th or 7th of June. I'm kind of like waiting for monsoon to come and just I don't know why, but I really wanted. Whatever. Let's just jump into the question. Alright. Okay, so question is that wait, where is the question? Okay, which AI tool would you use for your application? Okay, that's really good. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build an app called My Artifact. What exactly is this application? When you wrote the diary every single day, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you wanted to. The reason is that the way that you think is much more faster than way that you write. Why? Because when you writing things or when you writing your thought process or when you write your thoughts, it's not really possible to write because writing requires a lot of things: pen, paper, convenience, spelling mistake, lot of things. It makes kind of like a printing your thoughts makes more difficult. And because of this thing, there are so very less people are actually exist who are kind of like simply writing a diary. Very less. But writing a diary or writing a journal is a very much essential. It's a self-reflection process. You actually connect with yourself. So what if instead of writing a diary, what if we could record a diary, like an audio recorder diary? The audio recorder diary I called Artifact. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is My Artifact. My Artifact episode number 4059. I am doing this thing for past 11 years. I am doing this thing every single day. And because of this self-reflection process, because of this recording Artifact, because of this audio diary, I kind of like get so much amount of value inside of me. The person that I am became today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of Artifact. So the amount of value that I get from the Artifact, I wanted to share this value to the people so that people should supposed to be get this value in themselves. So how do I supposed to share this technicality? How do I supposed to share this process? By building an application. So my application is a kind of like a somewhat something like a YouTube platform. Like in the YouTube platform, you actually upload your video. Other people kind of like a listen or watch your video. In Artifact, the same. You actually record your Artifact. Okay, upload your Artifact in Artifact platform. Other people listen your Artifact. Okay. So this is kind of like simply my application. Now, before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to know all the possible consequences. I wanted to aware of what might gonna problem I will gonna face. So I went to ChatGPT. I tell my idea, tell everything, and I also said that I want to aware all the possible consequences will gonna happen if I make this app. So suggest me hundreds of questions. ChatGPT suggests me hundreds of questions. This is one of those questions. Now, regarding about the question says that which AI tool would you use to run your application? So basically, my application is actually powered by AI, artificial intelligence. Okay. So which AI tool would you use? Before I'm kind of like giving the answer, what kind of like a simply like a process really required me to use AI? Okay. The first obvious thing is that voice masking. Okay, if I want to implement the voice masking, I need to use a kind of like a voice masking AI, like a 11 Labs or multiple AI model who could kind of like replace the voice, which is really good. Okay, and for the internal process, there are so many kind of like assembly AI systems. I will gonna use AI. It's not like that I will not gonna use AI. At the beginning, I might gonna use Gemini, ChatGPT, okay, to kind of like do the workflow and things and that. But I will not gonna rely on those applications. Okay, I want to build my own AI. Artifact is a kind of like a things that I wanted to build my own AI, and that AI name is Adam. I already mentioned regarding about the Adam, but still, again, I mentioned like probably this might be a not really good time to talk, but still, I already mentioned this thing. So, okay, so just like ChatGPT, just like Gemini, just like Claude, and any kind of like a assembly AI, Adam is also kind of like that AI, but Adam is a different. Okay, and what makes Adam is a kind of like a different is because of the training data. Like every AI model that you see, Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, DeepSeek, whatever, there are so many kind of like AI tools are actually available. Those AI tool are kind of like a using training data. What's the training data? The training data means like that. Imagine a kind of like assembly AI as a funnel. Okay, a kind of like assembly a filter. Okay, basically is this thing. If you say that key, who basically is this thing. Define me a photosynthesis process in simple language. So basically, what does AI do is that whatever the prompt that you put, prompt means like whatever the instruction that you put. My instruction define me a photosynthesis in simple language. So basically, what does it do is that it try to understand photosynthesis means what. First of all, AI will try to find out the photosynthesis in the internet. Okay, yeah, in the internet. Okay, how does AI would kind of like a search on internet? Because the AI, like most of the AI companies are feed all those internet data into that thing. Like imagine as a kind of like a something, those AI are a monster, data hungry monster, like so big, like a so much big monster. They have so much amount of data that they have. Okay, what does they do? They just kind of like a somebody that look through all the kind of like a data regarding about the photosynthesis, regarding about what does people say, what kind of like article regarding about photosynthesis things and that. They collect the entire information regarding about the photosynthesis and convert them into the simple language. How they will gonna convert? Basically is this thing. Every text that they gather, they kind of like put it into the context window. Okay, or I'm not really sure about the context window, but still they kind of like compile all those data and they make it kind of like a simple to understand. Simple means like that the word are kind of like a became more kind of like a heavy, make it kind of like a way more simpler and things and that. And when they do that thing, kind of like a convert that, like a find out all the photosynthesis data, then convert that data into the simple language, and after it convert to simple language, then it will kind of like a show it to you. This is the kind of like a data. This is the kind of like your answer, a photosynthesis in simple language. Okay, so this is the kind of like a AI, somewhat something kind of like a work like that way. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the technical point of perspective, because if I'm going to technical point of perspective, there are so much thing like a deep learning and that. We will not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about simple thing. Okay, so most of the AIs are a kind of like a work exactly as a similar. How? Because of the training data is a kind of like a very much same, like all the AI that they are exist, they are kind of like using the same training data. Training data means whatever the data that they have. Okay, let me kind of like give you context. Okay, ChatGPT use internet data, like whatever the data that is our internet, it has that data. ChatGPT. Okay, Claude has the same. They have training data about internet and things and that and that. Whatever the internet data have, they have Claude kind of like a find out and things and that and that. Grok has a really good advantage about the data. Grok has a advantage regarding about Twitter, because Twitter is Grok is a kind of like owned by the Twitter. It's their own product. Okay, yeah. So basically, is this thing, because of Grok can access the Twitter data, the X data. That's why Grok can kind of like give the racist comment. Okay, ChatGPT cannot able to give the racist comment. Gemini cannot able to do any kind of like racist comment, but Grok can. It's not because of that ki ChatGPT and kind of like a Gemini cannot able to do racist comment. It's a kind of like they have kind of like inbuilt setting that ki they cannot able to be use such a language that kind of like create the violence and things like that and that. But the Grok is a kind of like a very like owned by the Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is kind of like a promoting free speech, and free speech means like that key people talk shit, so Grok can talk shit too. It's not like that key Grok can talk shit, but still Grok can kind of like a something is this thing that key use the training data to kind of like a something. What's the exactly the advantage that it has a different training data? Well, basically, is this thing that ki Twitter is a kind of like a news portal. Whatever actually happened, people are kind of like tweeting regarding about this happened. Like basically, is this thing, some people kind of like a tweet, like there is a kind of like a shit in front of my house. Clean that shit. Okay, like kind of like that or something. Okay, so basically, the very new form of data is actually established every single second on Twitter platform. So that's why Twitter kind of like a get very early access regarding about what exactly happened. Okay, and that's a kind of like a really good advantage of kind of like a training data of you Grok as a using as a training data of X. Okay, metadata is a kind of like a somewhat something same. Meta AI is owned by the Facebook, Instagram, but like I don't really love that. Like Meta AI is a like I don't know. I haven't really used single time. Like basically, I don't know, yaar. Like they have kind of like a things. I don't know what does a Meta AI do. I haven't really used. I haven't really click on Meta AI. Like probably I click it maybe somewhere. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't really knew that. I didn't really kind of like open once Meta AI. Nothing really out, or maybe accidentally I open. There is a kind of like assembly of one AI model might be AI. Sorry, Meta is a kind of like introduce Manus AI. I'm not really sure about the exact pronunciation, Manus or Manus. I'm not really sure. Is it owned by the Meta AI? But still, I'm not really sure about that. Okay, Meta AI I haven't really used. Okay, I use Grok. I use ChatGPT. ChatGPT and Gemini both are used every day, single times, like every single time. Because of the in India right now, ChatGPT and Gemini is a kind of like a free for everybody. So that's why I'm actually accessing it. Claude is a really good, okay, but Claude is a kind of like a you need a token and kind of like a things and that and that. The I don't really have pro version for Claude, and basically this thing. Yeah, Grok is also kind of like a thing that it really required a kind of like a prepaid version. Okay, like I have kind of like a Gemini and ChatGPT. I have kind of like a simply free version, not free version, kind of like it's free, like a pro version actually free in India. So that's I'm kind of like using this thing, Gemini and ChatGPT. There is also another kind of like a platform to Perplexity. But Perplexity, it's not a kind of like a AI, it's a kind of like assembly a custom AI, means like that it's a multiple model are kind of like a work in same AI. Okay, like it has a kind of like a Claude, it has a GPT, it has a Gemini, kind of like integration of all those things, which kind of like a give you very better thing. But still, I don't really have Perplexity Pro model, so I'm using kind of like a ChatGPT and Gemini. whatever. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing specifically. Grok is a kind of like a very special regarding about the training data that it has. Like basically this is the exclusive data that Grok has, and that's why the Grok kind of like simply give very like a very good advantage. What's the kind of like advantage that Grok has? First of all is that key early access of any news media, any kind of like a thing actually happened, mostly Grok will kind of like get this information. Okay, yeah. So but probably is this thing that key Grok and other kind of like a simply AI model are not really that much different. There is nothing really at all. Okay, but Adam, that the Adam that I'm gonna build is a way much different. Okay, Adam is the training data that it has. It has a training data of artifact. Okay. Now let me tell you from future point of perspective what exactly will gonna happen. Okay. I'm not really sure, but what I think from my point of perspective. Okay, yeah, what I see from the my point of perspective, what might be future would be look like. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing I am recording artifact. Okay, and I'm recording artifact for past 11 year. And artifact, when you record the artifact you actually connect with yourself. Okay, and you feel really good when you talk with yourself. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like doing this thing for past 11 year, and it is really good. Like it not only kind of like a felt really good, but it is legitly feel really good, and it also kind of like a really better for your future. You understand yourself much more better and things like that and that. It kind of like a gets a kind of like a something value. As a human, like as I am a human, I feel really good when I record artifact. Okay, now if I make this application and people are started recording artifact. Okay, like basically I'm guessing that key at the beginning, like a first 5 year of artifact, very less people are kind of like a recording. Because of that key people don't know what is exactly the artifact means what. Okay, so probably within a 5 year I might not get that many user, probably maybe 1,000 or maybe 10,000 user I will gonna get in within a 5 year. Okay, I will still run my application for 5 year. Okay, even if I'm not getting any kind of like some things, I will kind of like still run my artifact. Okay, yeah. Then what is actually happen after the 5 year, there is a kind of like a explosion curve will gonna happen. How this explosion curve will gonna happen is because of mouth publicity. Because of that, now let me tell you one thing that key when people kind of like get some sort of amount of value, they kind of like share this value with the people. If you don't really understand, let me kind of like give you example. In 2018 or maybe 2019, there is a movie release Joker, which is Jacqueline Phoenix is kind of like did the acting on that movie Joker first part. Okay, and that movie is like this is kind of like a simply it's not a superhero movie. Okay, nothing really at all. And by the way, this movie doesn't really have any kind of like a things like basically let me tell you one thing. This movie doesn't really have any kind of like a some stuff that it should supposed to be get that much popular, like nothing really at all. Then why does kind of like a Joker movie is kind of like a so much popular? Is because of mouth publicity. I'm not gonna kind of like assembly doubt that the acting is not really good. No, acting is really good, really great. But let me tell you one thing now, when you kind of like make such a movie that wanted to become really much more powerful, you need a kind of like a something a selling factor. Okay, yeah, like a okay, let me tell you one thing. Why does Marvel movie, I'm talking about Indian point of perspective, I'm not talking about kind of like a global point of perspective. Okay, yeah. In Indian point of perspective. Okay, so basically you just say that if I wanted to make a movie, which is I'm thinking that that movie will kind of like earn lot of money. I wanted to make that movie kind of like earn lot of amount of money. So what do I supposed to do with that? Like how do I supposed to make such a movie that kind of like earn almost like a billions of dollar in box office collection? So if I wanted to make this such a movie that kind of like earn billions of dollar, I have to be make sure that key movie should supposed to be action oriented. Why does kind of like action oriented? Because action sell. Like a movie can like a action movie is a kind of like a higher chances to kind of like a somebody get lot of sell and people will kind of watch lot of action movie. But why does action movie, like why not kind of like a emotional or love romantic movie, why not those movies? Is because of that ki action movies are always kind of like a really okay, this I'm kind of like a diverting off the topic and things and that. Okay, like basically I'm not going to talk about this particular stuff, why does kind of action movies actually earn a lot of money and things and that, but still, like basically top most money on movie, almost like a 8 or 9 movie are action movie. Okay, yeah, in all around the world. Okay, and same kind of like a data that you get in the every kind of like a something like every country, the same data that it has, action movie kind of like a sell lot of money. Okay, like a earn lot of money, whatever. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that ki Joker movie is not a kind of like action oriented movie. Okay, yeah, Joker is not even a kind of like a superhero. Joker is a nothing really at all. Okay, yeah, it's a kind of like a Joker movie is actually associated with the Batman universe, but still there is no Batman at all in that movie. So why does kind of like a Joker movie so popular, and why does kind of like a people are kind of like a doing mouth publicity? Is because of the acting, and also it is because of that ki previous version of Joker person, like basically previously there is a Heath Ledger who kind of like a play as a Joker in a Batman 2 movie, and basically his performance is so amazing that people loves it. And basically I'm not really sure, but Heath Ledger is a kind of like a died because of something, I'm not really sure about that. So basically what exactly happened that when the person is actually died, whatever the work that he did, it kind of like a simply get even more limelight. Example, Steve Jobs. Okay, yeah, like when the Steve Jobs dead, there is a lot of limelight came to the Apple company, because like Apple company kind of like a gain lot of profit because of Steve Jobs dead. Okay, yeah, like why is that thing? Like basically is this thing, if a kind of like a one revolutionary person who kind of like invents something, people don't really care at all. Okay, yeah, until and unless that particular person gone. And when that particular person gone, then people realize that ki, oh, this particular person gone, but he kind of like created something very unique, and we have to be utilize that thing. So basically is this thing now, it's a kind of like simply the people thought process. It just kind of like a thing is that when the people kind of like lose another people, then the whatever the people they kind of like lose, they think that he probably whatever that particular person did before he did, he kind of like create something really unique. And because of this thing, people are kind of like putting a lot of attention. Okay, and this is that's why kind of like Apple companies actually kind of like get little bit of kickstart. Okay, because if I'm gonna say is this thing, I'm not say that ki like basically is this thing that ki Apple company is a kind of like a gain lot of profit from the Steve Jobs death of Steve Jobs. No, but still is this thing that na ki like just little bit of just push, not too much, just little bit push. People are kind of like a look at Apple company to the Steve Jobs legacy. Okay, yeah, and they kind of like when they kind of like look on that point of perspective, then that legacy perspective add value to them, and that company will kind of like a blow and things like that. I'm like it's a like probably I might be a kind of like a wrong, but this is kind of like a human psychology work. Okay, yeah. So probably the same thing happened that Heath Ledger is a kind of like a really phenomenal acting in Batman 2. So that's why that Joker character is kind of like a so much unique character. Okay, yeah. And then after he did, after years after, the Jacqueline Phoenix kind of like execute the role as a Joker. That movie is a kind of like a people already kind of like a simply have psychological impact regarding about the Joker character, and this is really good and really great. Okay, and whoever the play this character will be kind of like a really amazing. And basically the Jacqueline Phoenix, Jacqueline Phoenix is a kind of like a person who execute the character so well that the acting and kind of like simply the whatever the image that it has people regarding about Joker because of the Heath Ledger death, it just kind of like create that influence, and that influence is kind of like a people draw attention, and when the people draw attention, acting is already phenomenal and things and that, then it kind of like create popularity. Okay, yeah, like it's I know it's kind of like somebody being really wrong to kind of like somebody that keep people dead and kind of like somebody his death kind of like create a little bit of kind of like add value to the character or add legacy to the character. Probably something actually happen, whatever. Okay, I'm kind of like going to the off topic and things and that, but still What I'm saying is that that movie is a kind of like a really get much popular is because of that kind of like simply that how much value that they add. Okay, so basically same thing will gonna happen. Okay, like if the people are kind of like a recording artifact within a 5 year, I like within a 5 year in the artifact, I might not get that many user, probably maybe kind of like 1,000 or 10,000 user I will gonna get within a 5 year, nothing really at all. But after the 5 year, it will gonna exponentially because people are started talking regarding about artifact that what kind of like a value that they get, like just 10,000 people, that 10,000 people kind of like a create explosion, 10,000 to like a 20,000, then 20 to 40 to 80 to 1,60,000 then 3,20,000, then exponential. Okay, yeah. When this thing actually happened, then let me tell you one thing what will gonna happen. Okay, because of artifact says adding value to them. Okay, another thing is that because of adding value and people are kind of like a feel really good, and after that, and when they feel really good and it is not really wrong thing, it's a kind of like a real right thing, they will understand their life and things and that people often record artifact more. Okay, so basically what will gonna happen after maybe a decade of artifact, I might have kind of like simply a million user, probably, I'm not really sure about the million user. Okay, yeah. So let's do the mathematics right here. Okay, yeah. If I'm gonna say I just have a million user who are kind of like a recording artifact averagely half an hour every single day. Okay, yeah. So just try to understand, try to look at the mathematics. Okay, people are kind of like a talking so much in artifact, that means like a basically whatever the kind of like a data that internet has till now, I am creating that data maybe within a year or maybe kind of like a within a 2-3 year. Okay, yeah. Because of that people are kind of like a talking and things, and basically let me tell you thing, people are kind of like a so much wanted to talk, but because of this thing there is very lack of expressing thoughts, like we cannot able to be express our thoughts. If we only can able to be express our thoughts only when we kind of like really required our like basically we should supposed to be share, say, see the face and things and that like anonymous kind of like a way to share our thoughts is not actually exist. My platform is actually giving that thing, giving that freedom to things and that. So anonymous and kind of like you can express everything. So basically if that thing connect, people are kind of like a recording artifact, and when they're recording artifact they kind of like feel really good and they just continue recording artifact. I'm kind of like suddenly creating so much amount of data, so much massive data, and that data is really gold mine of data. Okay, what's the gold mine of data? Okay, let me tell you one thing. Every social media company are wanted to understand their user. Instagram do the same thing. Their kind of like a feed mechanism is actually worked by the how does kind of like a user interact with this thing, and according to that they kind of like a feed the kind of like a algorithm and things and that same thing YouTube does, same thing kind of like a things and that every kind of like a social media company try to understand the user, like a Google, Apple, everything they are try to understand the user. But in my platform the user is kind of like a giving the information to the artifact. Okay, yeah, upfrontly, like a literally, like a basically is this thing that Instagram is try to figure it out that this particular person might be like filmmaking, but in the artifact the user is literally telling that he likes the filmmaking and things and that. Okay, yeah. So basically if the user are kind of like telling those information upfrontly, I am getting so much amount of information, a gold mine information. Like I am kind of like getting the people information, people thoughts. Like I'm actually understanding the thoughts. Okay, and that is called gold mine. So that's why artifact is kind of like became a gold mine. Okay, and that gold mine is a lot, like really lot. Like probably within a year. if I'm thinking that probably maybe if I have 10 million user, that 10 million user creates such a data is equivalent to amount of the data that humanity created till now. that data I will gonna collect within a year, and it is exponentially will gonna happen. It is exponentially will gonna happen. So basically I will gonna have so much amount of data. Okay, yeah. And basically what do I supposed to do with that data? Okay, yeah. Do I supposed to be kind of like a run the ad and kind of like a do the kind of like a some the stupid kind of like a some marketing business like a Instagram and Facebook does? No, definitely not. I will not gonna do that. I will gonna utilize that data for even more right purpose. And what is actually that right purpose? Building an Adam. Okay, I will gonna mention this thing. Okay, Adam. Okay, first of all, why is that Adam? Okay, why you kind of like mention your AI as Adam? Well, basically, is this thing that every AI has a training data of internet. They are using as a training data as the internet, but Adam used the training data as an artifact as well as internet too. Okay, as well as internet too. So basically, what has actually happened? If billions of people are recording artifact, billions of recording of people thought process are sucked by Adam, and Adam has a kind of like a minds of all the billions of humans people. Okay, yeah. And Adam will understand the human more because of Adam is actually built by human thought process. So basically this thing, the Adam act like a human. Okay, so that's why I build, that's why I kind of like give the name, my Adam name as a Adam, because Adam in kind of like a Bible, Adam is the first human on the planet, and in digital world, the Adam would be a kind of like a first AI who act like a human. That's why I kind of like give them name as a Adam. Okay, so this is kind of like Adam. Okay, now what could Adam do? You cannot able to be imagined. Okay, let me tell you one thing. First of all, why does Adam will kind of like do something crazy shit stuff that no other AI cannot able to do? Okay, first of all is that key, before you try to understand the Adam, you have to understand the AI first. Okay, yeah. What is exactly the AI will gonna do? Then you try to understand the what exactly Adam will gonna do. Okay, let's talk about the AI. Now, I'm gonna kind of like give you a very simple language so that you might gonna understand. Let's say you have a kind of like a maze, okay, and you have to find a path. Like basically, there's input and output. There is a in and there is a out. So you went inside and you have to find outside that how should you supposed to get outside that maze. Okay, yeah. So you found a kind of like a way. Okay, this way you kind of like a go there might be a like a false way. Maybe you try this or that. You try this, that. After the kind of like a things, you kind of like end up at the end of the maze and you will kind of like complete the maze. Okay, yeah. So what is actually happened? What is actually happened is this thing that you like basically, let me tell you one thing. There is a probability or possible way or kind of like let me tell you one thing. A kind of like somebody is this thing that probability would be much more better way to kind of like give the answer. So probability means what now? What exactly is this thing? When we try to find a path, we try every path. Like we try this path is dead end. We go to left, dead end. There is another way, dead end. Okay, yeah. So basically what is actually happened? We try every path, and after we get dead end, then we kind of like go back and try this path, dead end. Then we try this path, dead end. Then like basically try to figure it out. Okay, yeah. Like after so many dead ends, we kind of like figure it out. Okay, this is the kind of like things. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. When we solving our maze, we are actually solving by one pointer. A one pointer kind of like a go from this dead end, kind of like a go back this way, dead end, this kind of like one pointer. Okay, yeah. Now what does AI will gonna do? Okay, yeah. Like this is a kind of like a human who kind of like a finding a path to kind of like a get outside. But AI kind of like do something different. AI, what is actually that thing? AI at the same time use a kind of like a thousands of pointer in that maze, and that thousands of pointer kind of like a find a path. Okay, yeah. Like let me tell you what exactly happened. instead of one pointer get inside in that maze, no, AI kind of like a get thousands of pointer get inside that maze. And when the thousands of pointer get inside of that maze, almost like a every pointer will kind of like a try to find a path. Okay, yeah. And if they got dead end, it kind of like a give the instruction to the other pointer that key this path is dead end, try another path. Okay, yeah. So basically because of this kind of like a simply understanding the loop and things and that, like all those kind of like a thousands of kind of like a pointer kind of like a go every possible way. Okay, and basically they will kind of like a simply solve the maze very quickly as compared to human might gonna take a minute to solve the maze, but AI could kind of like a take just fraction of second, because a kind of like a AI could kind of like a something like a figure it out all the kind of like a thousands of pointer at the same time, and those thousands of pointer kind of like a go all the direction, and basically will try to kind of like a one pointer will get out, and they will kind of like a say this is the kind of like a things like in the previous example a human kind of like use one pointer to kind of like achieve the success, but AI kind of like emit thousands of pointer, and probably in the thousands of pointer maybe one will kind of like find a path, and obviously one will find the path too, and it will become very much easier. Okay, so this is kind of like AI will gonna do. Okay, yeah, AI will kind of like find the all the possible consequences and kind of like give the kind of like a final direction or final kind of like a path and things and that. So this is what kind of like a somewhat something AI do. Okay, yeah, in as simple as possible I'm trying to tell you. Okay, now let me tell you one thing regarding about the Adam. Okay, now Adam is a AI. Now what could Adam will gonna do? Okay, yeah. Now you if you understand the Adam, sorry, if you understand the AI, now let's understand the Adam. Now Adam, what exactly is this thing? I train Adam as a kind of like a pattern recognition. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you one thing. We are living the life, or are we living in the pattern? Probably you might gonna say no, we are not living in pattern, we are kind of like a living in life, but you are actually living in pattern. Let me kind of like tell you, you will gonna wake up, like basically let me tell you one thing. I will, okay, tomorrow I will gonna wake up at maybe 7 a.m, 7 or maybe 7:30 or maybe 6:30, but usually I wake up at 6:30 or 7 a.m. Okay, yeah. I wake up at 6:30 7 a.m. Okay, I went to number 2, I went to number 1, then I will brush my teeth. Okay, yeah, then I will kind of like make a tea, then I will kind of like chop the vegetable for the breakfast, then I will kind of like went into the rooftop, I will record the artifact, I record the artifact, then after that I read my book, then after that I mop the floor, then after that I work on my project, work on my app development thing. Okay, then after that at 6:30 p.m I went to the workout, I came home at maybe 8:30 p.m. After I came, I will eat my dinner. After the dinner, I will kind of like stay in the living room for a little bit time. Then after that, at maybe 10 or 10:30, I might be coming to the rooftop. I record the artifact. After I record artifact, I will kind of like go inside my room, try to do remaining so many work that I remain. Then at 12 a.m, I went to sleep. So this is my kind of like a routine. Okay, yeah. And that routine I'm kind of like following for almost like every single day. So it creates a pattern. Okay, now everyone kind of like do the same thing. Like who you are kind of like following the pattern. Like you kind of like wake up, go to the office, come from the office, and kind of like do something like that. It's a kind of like a simply predicting pattern. Or it's a kind of like a simply pattern. Okay, yeah. So when every human is a kind of like a simply executing life in a pattern, when we are kind of like looking the things as a pattern, we kind of like determine what we're gonna do tomorrow. Okay, yeah. Like tomorrow I will gonna do this, like tomorrow I will gonna wake up at 7 a.m. Why I knew that? Because from last 10 year or maybe before that, I was usually wake up at 7 a.m. So more higher chances that I will gonna tomorrow I will gonna wake up at 7 a.m. Okay, yeah. Probably 90 to 95% of probability that I have that I will gonna wake up at 7 a.m. Alright, yeah. So this is what kind of like a something that key looking at the predictable option. Okay, now everyone are actually following the pattern. Now not only the humans, but as well as institute, as well as kind of like a some government policy, as well as everything is kind of like a following the pattern. Okay, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday is actually off. Okay, yeah, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is actually off. So basically is this thing that na ki we knew that ki Sunday is kind of like off day, no one will kind of like do the work. So basically next Sunday would be the kind of like the same, that no one will gonna work at next Sunday. So basically finding a pattern. Okay, finding a pattern. So let me tell you one thing. When we found the pattern, we could predict the future. We could predict that what we're gonna do tomorrow. Okay, and that's what Adam is actually trained for, to predict the possibility of tomorrow what will gonna happen. And that is called Adam is became a prediction model. Okay, AI prediction model. It could predict that what we're gonna do, because the Adam is actually powered by AI. Like Adam is a kind of like AI, which is kind of like a train by kind of like looking at the predictable path, that what is actually predictable path and things and that and that. Now let me tell you one thing. When we follow the predictable path, we are try to understand what is actually possible way. Okay, now if you understand this thing, okay, now let's talk about the real example. Okay, I already mentioned it previously, but let's figure it out. Okay, I am a policy maker and I wanted to establish a policy regarding about the women education in India. Okay, I am kind of like establishing as a women education in India is became free. Like I wanted that ki women should supposed to be get free education. Okay, in India till the 12th standard. So if I introduce this policy in Parliament, before I went to Parliament, I have to be kind of like a something, look at the all possible scenario, that ki if I implement this policy in the real world, what will gonna happen? Okay, then I have to look from the every possible scenario, that ki if the women kind of like get the free education, if the girls are get the free education, what possible consequences will gonna happen? Okay, let me tell you one thing. Every action comes with the consequences, right consequences, wrong consequences. Okay, let me tell you one thing. Yes, even if your motive is really right, but there is also wrong consequences too. Okay, like your motive is that ki I want to make the kind of like women are kind of like educated, and I wanted to give them education as a free for women, but there is a wrong consequences will gonna happen too. Okay, every action comes with the consequences, wrong consequences and right consequences. You have to make sure that ki right consequences happen more, wrong consequences happen less. You cannot eliminate wrong consequences. Wrong consequences always be there. It has to be there. Okay, and right consequences always be there too. Okay, you cannot eliminate that. You cannot able to be solve the wrong consequences. No, it will always be there. Okay, so let me tell you one thing. You have to make sure that ki right consequences happen more, wrong consequences happen less. But how do I supposed to know that? How do I supposed to understand right consequences and wrong consequences? Okay, basically is this thing, let's just understand from human point of perspective. Okay, let's just say that ki if I implement this policy, then what will gonna happen? Okay, from time duration point of perspective and everything. Okay, so first of all is that ki if the woman kind of like get the educated after 20 year, what will gonna happen? Millions of women or millions of girls are get educated, which is really good. Okay, which is really great. Now when the women are get really educated, what will gonna happen? They will gonna married late. Okay, why? Because when the every person get educated, that particular person want a job, and getting a job in this world is a kind of like a bit more hassle. You need at least like a age of 25 to kind of like a get a job minimum. Okay, 25, 27 and things and that and that. Okay, so basically is this thing, if the women are kind of like a getting a job at the age of 25 or maybe kind of like a 23 or 25, okay, so obviously that woman will not gonna married before the age of 25. Okay, so let's just say a millions of women are kind of like a get the education, and millions of women are kind of like a waiting till the age of 25, and after the age of 25 when they will get married. So what will gonna happen? The women should supposed to be get married at the age of 19 or 20. They are kind of like a getting married at the age of 25. Things and that. Now this is a very small difference. Like a particular woman kind of like a get married late. What wrong will gonna happen? Well, everything. Like basically is this thing that they are like a women's are kind of like a not much that much egg fertile. Like usually women's are kind of like a their fertile egg are kind of like a very much extreme at the teenage. Like basically is this thing that I'm not really sure about that, but like basically women are more fertile at kind of like a somebody age 19 to 20 or maybe 23 or maybe 25. But after the 25 their wound are not much that fertile. Okay, yeah. So if the women are kind of like a little bit late, like instead of 25 she married at 27, then she might not get pregnant, or maybe kind of like a somebody that like a maybe kind of like a she get pregnant, but I don't know. Okay, yeah, she might kind of like a bring only one life into the into this world. Okay, yeah, but if she married early, she might kind of like a get at least 2-3 babies, but right now she only get only one babies. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you one thing. This small policy change, this policy change, like this kind of like a small policy impact a lot in entire women in India. Okay, and I'm just talking about only one consequences. There are multiple consequences like getting married, choosing a right partner, with kind of like a lot of clashes. Like let me tell you one thing: when the woman get kind of like educated, when she get a job, she is not kind of like expecting her to a kind of like a get a kind of like a somebody work at home or things and that and that. Now if she is not working at home, she is kind of like not taking their child, then child is kind of like somebody so much kind of like a somebody kind of like I don't know what will gonna happen if the kind of like a child is not kind of like a somebody not really getting that much good parenting, because their parents are kind of like a getting job and there is no one at home. So I don't know what will gonna happen, but probably not gonna right thing. Okay, yeah. So basically the entire human structure that we developed till the thousands of years, that structure will kind of like get disturbed. I'm not kind of like a like a I'm not kind of like a somebody that like a saying this thing that women should not supposed to be get educated. No, definitely not. I wanted to get education, but I'm trying to give you the kind of like a somebody that example regarding about the what will the small policy will kind of like what will gonna impact. No, the stuff that I mentioned is a kind of like a bad consequences. Let's talk about the good consequences. When the women get educated, that women kind of like get rights, women kind of like give the very good perspective. Right now in India, almost like men are putting the effort. Okay, 60% of the effort are actually pulled by the women for pull by the men. But right now women are kind of like get educated, so women are also kind of like take the responsibility of kind of like pushing our country to the more growth and things and that and that. So basically in that situation is this thing that probably that stack will gonna change, like probably maybe 50-50. Like basically before that almost like a 90% of the kind of like a something that development of the country depends on the male, but right now women are educated. So because the women are educated, then kind of like a something ratio will balance, maybe kind of like a 50-50 or maybe 60-40. Okay, yeah. So when this actually happened, the growth will kind of like happen 10x more. So when the growth is actually happen 10x more, then it will gonna add so much amount of value to the country and things and that. So let me tell you one thing: educating kind of like a women in India is a kind of like a really great. Okay, but there is a good consequences and bad consequences too. Okay, yeah, like a growth of the country will definitely gonna happen, but bad consequences will gonna happen too. She might gonna marry late, the birth will not gonna kind of like happen. Even if the birth actually happened, the kind of like the child is kind of like somebody grown without the parents, and whatnot might gonna impact on that thing, that particular person and things and that, which will kind of like disturb the human cycle and things and that. A small policy will kind of like impact a lot throughout the kind of like some years and things and that, right? So this will gonna happen. Okay, yeah, like these are kind of like consequences. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the Adam. Okay, yeah. Now how does Adam will kind of like help that thing? Now because of Adam is have a thought process of billions of humans mind and things and that, so Adam will kind of like think about all the possible point of perspective. Also Adam also have a internet access too. So Adam can access the internet and everything and try to create the simulation. That's why Adam is not a AI. Adam is a AI simulation. I kind of like a somebody like a design as a Adam as a run as a simulation. Means like that what will gonna happen that key Adam try to simulate that key if the this policy we're gonna introduce in India, what will gonna happen? The Adam will kind of like collect the data from Indian context, like basically whatever the kind of like artifact that it record in India, kind of like collect all those data. Okay, yeah, and whatever the data that it has, it kind of like utilize all those data to kind of like simulate, try to create the virtual world when the kind of like a woman get educated, and throughout the time that simulation kind of like continue on what kind of like a problem will gonna happen. Okay, yeah, so that simulation is a kind of like a things. Okay, if you not really understand the simulation, let me kind of like explain to you simulation. I was a CAD modeler, a computer aided design modeler, and usually is this thing that now I have to be kind of like a model some sort of product and things and that. Usually is this thing I usually kind of like a focus on kind of like a structure. Okay, yeah, like a basically I kind of like a create a design as a structure, like a how do I supposed to structure and things and that. But structure is a kind of like a bit more complex subject. Let's talk about simple design. Okay, yeah, universal coupling. Okay, I already mentioned this previous example, but let's talk about again. If you don't know the universal coupling, it's a kind of like a mechanical term. Okay, yeah. When like you see the trucks, okay, yeah, there is a kind of like a back wheel. They have a kind of like a differential, and differential actually connected with the universal coupling. Okay, don't really go with that what's the universal coupling and things and that. Let's just understand it's a kind of like a mechanical equipment. Okay, yeah, which kind of like a transmit the motion to shaft to universal to the differential, so which is actually connected. It's a kind of like a U-shape coupling which is kind of like a connected to the each other. Okay, yeah. Now basically if I wanted to create any kind of like a mechanical part, I need to figure it out a lot of things. First of all is that that material should supposed to be withstand with the heat, stress, pressure, lot of things. If I make a universal coupling made up by wood, will it be survive? No, definitely not, because wood will kind of like easily broken. Okay, yeah. Then do I use aluminum? I cannot use aluminum because aluminum has a kind of like a very much ductile. It does not have that much stress. Basically, is this thing I just need to understand the kind of like a metallurgy regarding about that key what is actually material strength and things and that. I have to use iron, I have to use alloy, I have to use a kind of like a nickel, I have to use multiples of kind of like elements mixture together to kind of like make my kind of like a material, make my kind of like that engineering kind of like equipment should supposed to be withstand heat, resistant, rain, water, cold, lot of thing. Okay, and make sure it should supposed to be working fine for almost like a 10-20 year and things and that. It should supposed to be how less corrosion, it should supposed to be how kind of like a withstand with a lot of heat and things and that. So in that particular context I have to be kind of like add multiple kind of like a simply proportion, like a aluminum should supposed to be 2%, iron should supposed to be 43%, zinc should supposed to be 9%, whatever it. I kind of like use this kind of like assembly composition and kind of like do the simulation. I could see the red means like that ki probably is this thing that ki the material should supposed to be C less, or maybe there is a stress actually seeing over here throughout the time. So probably I have to kind of like add multiple of kind of like this. It's a kind of like a simulation. Try to figure it out, like a fail, try to fix this thing, try to add even more on the digital. Okay, like basically I'm not kind of like making the universal coupling reality and try to do this thing. No, I kind of like somebody making mistake in digital world and try to make my product as much as better in the digital world. That is called simulation. To kind of like make mistake in the digital world, learn from that mistake and try not to do that mistake again in the kind of like a digital world. Try to fix that mistake. Okay, again mistake actually happened, things and that. So it's a kind of like a things. A simulation meant to be kind of like a make mistake and kind of like a learn from that mistake and kind of like a not to do that mistake and kind of like a implement like a what kind of like a things that we should supposed to be not to do that mistake, fixing things and that. Okay, yeah. Like this is kind of like simply the value of simulation, that you make a mistake, you learn from that mistake and not to make that mistake again or fix that mistake. Okay, yeah. And that is called, this actually happened in kind of like a simulation. Okay, yeah. So basically this is kind of like I was actually doing when I was kind of like designing and things and that. Adam will gonna do the same thing. Like basically is this thing, Adam will kind of like a simulate the kind of like a scenario that what will gonna happen, that key, if the woman got free education in India, what will gonna happen, if the policy will gonna implement throughout the time, like a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year, 100-year, what will gonna happen with this policy. Okay, yeah. And if I wanted to implement the policy, I have to make sure that key right consequences happen more, the wrong consequences happen less. Okay, yeah. So probably what do I supposed to do is that ki let me kind of like a kind of like a some sort of changes. Probably is this thing that na ki maternity leave for the women should supposed to be get more higher, or maybe casual leave for the women should supposed to be higher. Like the casual leave for the every employee get 15 days, but for the woman get 30 days. Okay, or risk and lot of things. Try to figure it out every possible scenario that how should we supposed to make the policy as much as right, because making a lot of mistake in digital world, Adam will kind of like a make mistake, learn from that mistake, and try to not to make that mistake again. So Adam learn from that simulation too. Okay, yeah. And when the Adam learn from simulation, try to kind of like a give you such a kind of like a way to implement the policy with higher probability, higher success rate, and lower kind of like a lower wrong consequences. Lower wrong consequences will gonna happen. There is a kind of like a probability of maybe kind of like a 10 or maybe 12-15% might be wrong consequences, 80 to 85% right consequences will gonna happen. So Adam kind of like a show you a kind of like a perfect path to implement the policy and things and that. And how does Adam will kind of do this thing? Because of kind of like a predicting the future possibility, and also is this thing because of the data that human has. Because of that key, human information is very much essential. Because of that key, when you try to simulate things in like basically whenever I try to simulate things, I need to know data about the metallurgy. I need to know about the aluminum alloy, metallurgy, zinc, cobalt, aluminum, iron, and things and that. I have to know the metallurgy, then and only then I will kind of like a simulate the kind of like a simulation. Okay, yeah. Same thing that like basically if the simulation happened to the people, I have to be if the simulation meant to be happen to the human people, then probably I need a kind of like a training data of human. And what could better way to get that data? Artifact. So yeah, this is what kind of like assembly Adam is the thing. And Adam is a kind of like a solving the product, solving the problem that will gonna happen in the future, and try to prevent the kind of like a mistake will gonna happen, okay, in the real world. So this is kind of like Adam will gonna do. Okay, yeah. And but how does kind of like Adam value to the people? Well, too much. Like let me tell you thing, same thing, like this policy will gonna implement, how much it add value, so much amount of add value to the society and things and that it will gonna add value indirectly, not directly, indirectly. Okay, yeah. As also is this thing that now if the Adam is kind of like implemented in every institution level, like a government or company or things and that Adam can kind of like a simulate the kind of like a some prediction path to the company, to the institution in much more better way, because Adam kind of like a simulate the every day what will gonna happen and what should you supposed to do with that thing and how should you supposed to things, so that the problem might gonna happen in the real life, that problem will kind of like a fix today. Like if that problem will gonna happen in real life, that problem will gonna see that today in the digital and try to fix that thing and try to prevent that mistake will gonna happen in the future. So this is what kind of like Adam will gonna do. Okay, prediction mathematics, and kind of like a run on probability, that how much kind of like a probability that it has and things and that. This is what kind of like I'm building now. Like basically I'm thinking about the Adam, and this is kind of like some AI tool I will gonna use. I talk a lot. I'm really tired about talking like right now. Okay, it's a kind of like a very futuristic concept. It's not really that futuristic. It's not really that. It's a very common thing. Okay, like a predicting future kind of like somebody sounds so kind of like a futuristic, but that is not. It's a very much common right now. Since the AI came, it just became so common. feel really good to watch those fireworks and things and that. I don't know why there is no Diwali at all, but still people are kind of like a firing firecracker because of, I don't know, maybe personal reason, whatever it is. But it's look really beautiful in the night sky. Whatever, this is it, and thank you.